Namaste. My name is Vivekananda. Welcome to this Hangout on Air. I am launching this series with a view to help entrepreneurs who have lots and lots of ideas and would like to start lots of projects. I myself am an entrepreneur and I hope to learn as I go along from the best people who have years and years of experience as business owners. I have great pleasure in welcoming my panel of experts today, but let me first set out the agenda for today. I would introduce my honored guests one by one, and then we all shall have a minute each to give the audience our 60-second elevator pitch. After that, I shall make a short presentation on the topic of the day, which is why, how, and what PRINCE2, followed by discussion and sharing of experiences. I shall talk about what is coming up in the next episode, and we conclude for today. Now it's time for introductions. Let me first introduce David Leopold to you. David, I have pinned you on the main screen. David has been a great friend, philosopher, guide, and dare I say, mentor to me. He has over 40 years of experience as a business owner. He was appointed to the Ohio Governor's Small Business Advisory Council for a 3-year term from 2006 as the only non-political appointment. He has a lot of interest in educating small business owners and has more than 700 educational videos on YouTube. He has more than 15,000 views and has inspired more than 100 small businesses to start. My second expert guest today is Ray Hiltz. I have pinned you onto the main screen, Ray. It was indeed Ray Hiltz who introduced me to this wonderful medium of Hangouts and Google+. It was indeed Ray who introduced me to wonderful people like David and Scott Scowcroft. Other wonderful people he introduced me to are Jessica Deville and lots more. Ray Hiltz is a social strategist and Google+ consultant. He is inspired by people who care about other people. He is inspired by the creativity process. He lives in Canada and is a great person. He has over 23,000 followers on Google+ and is a celebrity in his own right. And Scott Scowcroft, I have pinned you onto the main screen. Scott has been a great friend. We met on Hangout with Ray Hiltz along with David. Scott is becoming a living legend. Scott treatment. Scott treatment. I would have joked as a Star Trek fan as one to beam up Scotty, but that's a bit too
easy.
So Scott has agreed last minute to join us. He has. I hope he had enough sleep. So he was saying it's quite early for him, and let's have a great show. With those introductions, I hope I have done at least some justice to both of you, David, Ray, and Scott. Now we have come to the just a minute section. Each of us will have a minute each, and we shall give you our 60-second elevator pitches. There will be a penalty if you go over a minute, and that is you will have to say the sentence, integrate, simplify life 3 times. Are you ready for it? Here we go. Let me be the first victim. Let me do it first so that our panelists know what is expected. If I go over a minute, I will have to pay a penalty decided by the rest of the panel, David, Ray, and Scott. Here we go. My name is Vivek Anand. Wake Technology is my company. I believe in living a simple life. I believe in keeping things simple. I'm proud to share my belief with Steve Jobs and Leonardo da Vinci, who said simplicity is the ultimate in sophistication. So technology gets complicated, that it's its nature. So if technology confuses you and you want to simplify your life, integrate, simplify life, contact me. You can reach me through my Google Plus or my website, wake-technology.com. I hope that was within a minute.
It was 50 seconds. I was timing you. Well done.
So it's now Ray's turn.
Okay, are you going to shoot a gun? Do I start now? Okay, so my name is Ray Hiltz, owner and founder of Communications New Raycom. I'm a social media strategist. My goal is to help businesses find their way on the digital space, and I use Google Plus as a foundation for that. With Google Plus, you can be found, be followed, and be first. If there's anything I can do for you, you can see my Twitter handle here. It's at New Raycom, and find me on Google Plus by Googling me.
That was great, Ray. Now it is David's turn.
My name is Small Biz David. Okay. First, before I get started, and you can even count this in the 60 seconds, I want to say thank you to Ray Hiltz, thank you to Scott, thank you to Vivek, because indeed it was about 1.5 years ago that I met all of you folks in an HOA that Ray did and actually brought us all together. So thank you all for that. My name is Small Biz David. Google Small Biz David. Make sure you put it in parentheses, in quotation marks. I build communities inside of Google Plus using my 40+ years of direct marketing expertise. How many seconds, Scott?
34, but who's counting?
Excellent. All right. That's excellent. That's a perfect elevator pitch, 30 seconds.
That was great, David. We shall now move on to my little presentation.
You forgot Scott.
Yes, I did. Shame on me.
Well, it's because I'm last minute, and I'll try and be under a minute myself. But don't I get extra time because the other two were under? Doesn't it just average?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, well, let's see. I'm 7 seconds in already.
You can have my 26 seconds, Scott.
Okay, I'll take it just because I can. I'm going to start the clock over again here. Okay. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Vivek, for having me, and that of your guests, I'm the junior partner here because Ray is the one who ushered me into the wonderful world of Google Plus and Hangouts, and David has been an early mentor of mine, so it's a real pleasure to be in the film strip with the three of you. I'm Scott from the Scott Treatment. I revive, repurpose, and repair videos, which means mostly taking Hangouts on air and chopping them into golden nuggets, which are 2.5 or 3 minutes, single subjects of what was talked about during a Hangout on air. I put a nice open and close onto it, and what that does is unlocks the content from the vault of the video, the time vault of the video, so that people will be able to learn and appreciate what you said during your Hangout years, months, years afterwards. It evergreens your Hangouts on air.
Wow, that's impressive. You know
Well
what you should
done,
do, Scott? What if can you revive and repurpose people?
I do it every day, but it's a work in process. I'm my only client.
That would be the business model, wouldn't it? Huh? Wow.
That falls under one to beam Scotty.
I'm going to have the Scott treatment, I think.
I think we've just got birthed a new business here. Thank you, Ray.
Okay, it's now time for topic of the day. I shall show you a short presentation. In this short presentation, I shall try to answer 3 questions. Why PRINCE2? How it relates to small businesses? What does it mean to small businesses, and why should they care? Having stated the agenda, let me quickly let you know what I would not be talking about. The term PRINCE2 may conjure up images of royalty for you, but no, I would not be talking about them. I know there is a game called as Prince, but no. There are lots of movies you may think of in relation to Prince, but no, I'm not talking about them either. So, who or what is this Prince? Let me do a screen share and explain. PRINCE is an acronym for projects in controlled environment. Let me pause for a moment there. Those kittens are cute, aren't they? Think of the environment they create. Projects in controlled environment. PRINCE2 is a UK government recognized qualification, and that is my certificate there you see on the screen. Now, let me quickly get back on track with the agenda and also into your view by stopping this screen share. Why PRINCE2? One of the major concerns of any business is effective use of resources so that the business can grow. Almost everything that a small business does can be treated as a project in its own right. For example, using or building a new website for your business. With an existing website, using it as a means to grow the business is a project. Building a new website is obviously a project. A common question would be, is it relevant and useful for small businesses? The answer is yes. PRINCE2 consists of set of principles to ensure you get the benefits of your project. Let me explain with a mind map, and I'm going to do a screen share once again, otherwise you would not be able to read it. This mind map shows the very foundation of PRINCE2. Let me quickly go through what is on this map. The first principle is every project needs to have continued business justification. This is to be verified throughout the project. At any point, if business justification becomes invalid, project should be closed. The second principle is learn from experience. One should learn from past experiences. Our panel of experts here would be sharing some of that experiences shortly. Every project needs to have defined roles and responsibilities. Please note that these are roles, not job descriptions or designations or power hierarchy. No, they are all roles. In PRINCE2, management is by exception. Everyone involved in the project is supposed to execute their roles and responsibilities. When there is any issue or a problem, they are expected to raise them with the project management, and the project manager is supposed to handle them. This allows for course correction and ensures success. Every project should be considered in at least 2 stages so that there is opportunity to take corrective action. The focus of a project is on products rather than on activities. What am I supposed to make rather than what am I supposed to do? Every project has its own environment. The processes and concepts used to control the project need to be tailored to suit the environment. Let me talk briefly about how PRINCE2 relates to small businesses. For small businesses, correct and timely execution of a project can mean life or death of the business. Cost, timescales, and quality are the major aspects of any project. But for small business, even more important are the scope of the project, which covers what will or will not be delivered. All of the risks involved in the project have to be understood and have to be agreed upon, and this is very critical for collaboration. The benefits the project is expected to deliver will have to be very clearly understood. Assumptions may be wrong, and this would be very bad for small businesses. Now, let me come back into your view by stopping the screen share. As I said in the beginning, this is an introductory presentation. So the very first thing that a small business can do is to begin to understand project management principles. Then it would be worth their while to either implement them themselves or hire someone who can manage it for them. Now we have come to the next important section in this HOA. Share experiences. I'm sure our esteemed panel members have lots of experiences to share in this regard. So who wants to go first? David, you need to unmute, please.
I've got to say something, Vivek. I built over the last 40 years a very, very unusual business model that works for me, but it probably wouldn't work for the rest of the world. And in the last 5 or 6 minutes, you are the first person that I've ever met that described my business model. And so I was fascinated by what you did and how you did it. I have viewed myself, my business, as one of projects.
Mm-hmm.
I create a project either for myself, and then I go out and I do it, and find folks to get involved in that project with me, or in my lifetime, I spent a good many years working with other folks specifically on their projects. But that project mentality has always been at the base and the foundation of everything I've been doing. In the 70s, the best project I did was I started a magazine from scratch, from zero. And inside of 11 months, we created a profit in that magazine. Now, this is one of the toughest business decisions, small business decisions I ever had to make. Was I decided to discontinue a magazine that the business model was working, and I did it because I didn't enjoy the big overall business experience. I loved what I was doing, but I didn't enjoy. I was spending too much time doing things that I felt were not productive to the business, only because they were things that had to get done as owner of the business. So I discontinued that project. That took me into the 80s, and I created direct mail projects in the 80s, and then developed the concept and then brought clients into it. But direct mail, direct marketing was a theme in the 80s. In the 90s, it moved to teleservices, and that's where I've spent most of my life on individual projects. I was working with 19 of the 52 largest insurance companies in the country on developing customer engagement centers and using the telephone as the means of communication. That's what I did in the 90s. And then in 2000, I started to move towards the internet, and today, literally today, I'm creating a new project that I'm developing to take to the marketplace. So I loved your description of how you view business, and the concept has worked wonderfully well for me for 40 years.
David,
yes.
It's not my definition, David. Though I would like to take all the credit for what you said. No, it's not my definition. It's
discussion.
It's the definition defined by PRINCE2 methodology. So it's the industry standard.
Well, no, but
definition.
Yes, the discussion. And one final statement. My mother, for the last 40 years, who asked me, David, what do you do for a living? And she said, I can't. My friends ask me, and I can't tell them what you do. And my standard answer to her has been, Mom, just tell them whatever it is I'm doing, I'm still doing it, and it's still working, and I'm still doing it. That's all you need to tell them. So,
Ray?
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. So, do you want me to jump in, Vivek?
Yeah.
So, having listened to David, who is the entrepreneur guy, I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. My background is really business management. I mean, I started off as a hoofer, and if you're not sure what that is in the UK, I mean, that's a song and dance guy in musicals. And then I went on to managing and founding some theater companies, and then being an administrator for some performing arts companies, including dance companies. Then I went from, this is kind of weird, I went from that to delivering donuts at Tim Hortons. Now, anybody that knows Canada knows Tim Hortons, or maybe the northern part of the United States. And one of the first jobs I took after leaving theater for a bit was to deliver donuts to Tim Horton franchises who didn't have enough space to bake their own. And that was a night shift. So that was interesting. And then I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. So I think I'll open a restaurant. And that was probably the closest I've been to the David kind of entrepreneurship in my life. Other than that, yes, I've run restaurants, managed many, and that, for me, when you have a small business that is that small, I'm not talking 500 and 600 and 1,000 employees, I'm talking about at the most maybe 100 or so. Running that business is a project. And the things that you outlined are very, it's common sense. But how many people actually follow common sense? You have to, you have to work in the environment that you're in. You have to be very cognizant of that. And you have to, assume, whatever project you're going to do, whether it's opening a restaurant or whether it's doing a conference, which putting together a conference, you look at that, you lay out the table and think, okay, where are we? What do we want to accomplish? Is it feasible? And then do we have the talent to pull it together? And then you work on the structure. Okay, who's best at handling whatever? And there's two things that I want to say that I've learned through all those years of management, and that is there's two things that's going to kill you. One is bad communication, and the other one is it's not my job syndrome. People have to invest into either the company or the project for it to work. So you can't have someone in a little silo over here saying, no, all I'm doing is the accounting for the project, and I don't care what's going on there because it's not my job. Everybody has to pull together for the sake of the project, and that means you may have to run over to the other table and help somebody sew sequins or cook a pancake, whatever. I mean, you have to be invested in whatever that project is, and those are the two important things that I take away from my experience in doing this.
Scott?
Okay, my turn. Well, of the three guests, I guess I would classify myself as the reluctant entrepreneur. I didn't find myself in this position exactly by choice, but life circumstances sometimes dictates that one needs to be flexible and try new things. And now that I have tasted the fruits of being an entrepreneur, and David, you'll be glad to hear this, I don't think I'd ever want to go back again. And it's a real pleasure to have done this on the Google Plus platform, because I think that it tilts the playing field actually in favor of entrepreneurs and small businesses, because they can be more flexible. As Ray has just said, if you have a business and everyone is pulling together and can be very nimble, then there are advantages to that. And if we're going to a new way of conducting business, and I think Google Plus is leading the way in terms of allowing us to connect with our audience in different ways than has been traditional, we're miles ahead of some of the older or more staid companies, or the ones that are so big that it takes a long time to be agile and adapt. And we can sneak in as early adapters and get our seat at the table. I think it might be worthwhile for people to realize that what you've done is you have attained as I understand it, Vivek, a certificate in the UK that demonstrates your expertise in terms of PRINCE2, and that is, it may be the beginning, but that's the basis of what we're talking about today. So small wonder that it really makes a lot of sense, and then it's the application from it thereon. And one of the things I was very interested in, I'm fairly new, within several months of actually launching the Scott treatment, and one of the points was focusing on products, and another point was being flexible. And I thought I'd be editing together Hangouts on Air. What I found is that half of my business is that people have video projects that have little or nothing to do with Google Plus or Hangouts on Air, but has everything to do with editing and making a professional package that uses video and audio. And what they do is they think, well, I've got this video project that needs editing. Who do I know who could do that? Well, I know Scott. I like him. I've seen him around. Maybe he'll do it. So half of my business is an area that I didn't even anticipate, and I learned that early on. Instead of fighting it, it was, hey, great, there's golden nuggets in those hills, but there are other nuggets as well. But the other side of the coin is to make sure that when people ask me to do something other than edit Hangouts on Air, that I don't overextend myself and say, sure, I'll do that, thus and such, which is beyond my capabilities, and then that just sets up an opportunity for failure. So it's still being focused on the product and contained within what the mission of the small business is. So I found your presentation very useful, and I know that I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at it one more time, because it really does, for me at least, and I hope for those who are watching this Hangout, really frame the big picture. So thank you, Vivek.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, those are amazing insights. PRINCE2, as I see it, is a framework which is useful for any business of any size, and it's actually the part where it says that tailor it to the environment. That's where its major strength lies, because it can be used for major. I mean, as a government certification, it's started with it started from the government. Its certification is given by Office of Government Commerce. So yeah, that qualification is a requirement for any business which wants to take up projects financed by the government. So it's one of the requirements. So in that sense,
sorry, can I mention something, Vivek?
Yeah, go on.
I just wanted to bounce off something Scott said, and I think David will agree on this. And he touched upon the fact that the flexibility issue, and I think it's one of the challenges that small business have is that when you reach that tipping point, where do you get to that point where you have to do that pivot, or you have to go to the next step and either hire more people and get more people on the project? And I think that's a big challenge that small businesses have, because they're resource poor, right? So they don't have the resources to outsource. But as you were saying, businesses have to make a choice whether they do it in-house or they take project management out-house. And I don't know if project management out-of-house is realistic for a lot of small businesses. So what you're describing in terms of project management, and going back to what I said earlier, is that it's business management, right? It's how you run a business. They're pretty well parallel, whether you're doing on a time-constrained project or whether you're working prolongedly over a business life.
Yeah. In fact, what you said there makes more sense when you consider the main driver for a project has to be the business case. That's the PRINCE2 foundation. If the business case is not valid anymore, stop the project. Pull all the resources out of it. Use the whatever has been achieved so far for something else. That's what PRINCE2 says. But that if you try to outsource project management on its own, then it runs a serious risk of conflict of interest. The project manager may still say the business case is still valid, I still want to be employed, or want to be my payment needs to be continuous, etc. And so there can be a vested interest in saying business case is still valid when it is actually not. So that's one of the major things that one has to tackle under whether you run your project under PRINCE2 or not. Okay.
Vivek.
Yeah.
Vivek, to the point that Ray just made, there is a dynamic happening, certainly in this country. I'm not so sure if it's happening in Canada, not so sure if it's happening in the UK, but because of some decisions that are being made, and I'm referring to healthcare really, and I've had a lot of discussions recently with folks that healthcare is redefining or the mandatory health care, let's call it mandatory health care, is redefining how small businesses conduct their business. And to Ray's point, what is happening in this country, and we haven't even seen the full dynamic yet, is that a lot of companies, so that they don't have to provide mandated health care, are cutting back the hours of their employees, and so there's going to be more and more of a movement towards outsourcing, and so instead of somebody working 40 hours a week, they might work 30 hours a week, and whatever they have to do in those 30 hours, but there's going to be a return movement to outsourcing business. So we're back to that concept of projects, being built within, and what's the best way to execute that project.
Well, David, it's a bit different here in Canada because we've always had healthcare, and we already, we contribute to that in any business we have. But that whole movement towards part-time work, and outsourcing, getting your employees to, by the hour as opposed to salaried, that's been going on for a bit. That's a movement that has been going on definitely at least since 2008, but more even before that. And it's a big problem because it causes a lot of insecurity in the society as a whole. But that's a whole big topic. How it affects your business, you're right. Then you have to go outside of your business walls and recruit people, and it's harder to recruit people who are going to be invested in the company if they're only working 10, 15 hours a week, right? So that, I think that is another challenge for sure, because they're not part of the company culture. There's no culture there anymore if everybody's not attached to it.
It works to the concept of we are small business now. Really more and more so every day is about collaboration. So that if Ray has some certain talents that I need to execute a project, I'm going to call Ray up and say, Ray, let's work together. Or Scott, you've got some talents that I know you've got. I don't have those talents, so let's work together to execute a successful project. Back to Vivek's terms, execute a project.
So I'm delighted by this conversation because it reminds me of one of the foundational principles of the alternative college I went to in the 1980s, the Evergreen State College in Washington State. And one of the things that they introduced to us was the concept of disappearing task force. So everyone would come together, all of the stakeholders around a project. They would work on it until it was done, but once it was done, then it goes away. And that sounds an awful lot like you were just describing, David.
Yes. We have slightly run over the time, but that's okay. Next
Don't you have
week.
an app for that, Vivek?
We're on overtime now.
Just like the soccer game yesterday.
Yeah, next week, same time, same place, we would have Jessica Jewell, who would share her expertise with us. I actually invited her for this launch as well, but she said she had some other meetings. Next week the topic would be business case principle of PRINCE2. As I said in my little presentation, every project needs a business case, and next week I shall explain more about that. I would probably bring in a business case. It may be fictitious. It could actually be, why am I doing this Hangouts on Air? This is a project. So it could be that. And I would be very glad and grateful if all three of you join again next week. My computer is not.
We're repurposing content.
Yeah, thank you for being with us today, and I thank each of you David Leopold, Ray Hiltz, and Scott Scowcroft for agreeing to be my honored guests today, making time for the event, and sharing your wonderful experiences with us all.
Congratulations on your premiere, Vivek.
Thank you. Let me give the floor once again to each of you once again for closing comments. I would like them to tell our viewers how to reach them, and any special message you may have that you may want to share.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead then. First of all, congratulations again on your launch. It was a pleasure seeing you guys again, because the Lunch Bunch crew have been on hiatus and will be for another month or so. So this has been a real joy for me. But in terms of leaving, if you want to find me, you can find me at NewRayCom, my Twitter handle, and just on Google Plus as Ray Hiltz. But if I want to leave you with something, I think the word that sticks in my head, and the thing I go back to when things kind of look tough, is resilience. Remember, you have to have resilience, because things aren't going to go the way that you planned it, and even someone who's a bit of a control manager, control freak like it's important to realize that if it doesn't go the way you want it, then just try something different. But always have that end point in view. Always know what you're going to, and you may have to take some detours, but as long as you know where you're going to, you'll get there.
Well, I'll go next, and that people can contact me. I used to have a long web address that I even couldn't figure out how to have. So it's a real pleasure to have something everyone can remember, and it's thescotttreatment.com. So anyone wishing to find examples of what that means, all they have to do is to go there, and my email is simple as well, just my name in front of that, scott@thescotttreatment.com, anyone needing to communicate with me that way. And I guess the closing comments that I have is that I think that we all feel kind of an excitement that we're reinventing the future in terms of what we're doing on this platform, and it's one of the bonuses, I suppose, of being involved. And Vivek, what you're doing today with this series that you're launching is that you're being part of the solution. So thank you for that, and congratulations.
Thank you. David?
Actually, the first thing I'd like to say is I've said publicly before that Scott and I share some background similarity in that we were both involved in public access television. Scott got paid for his services. I was only a producer of content. But today I'm going to make a public announcement about Ray. I learned something new about Ray today. Not only did I had a little bit of theatrics in my background, certainly not as extensive as you, but I made donuts when I was in college. I worked a 12-hour shift. Making donuts, and I worked a 4-hour shift putting those donuts in bakery trucks.
Wow!
So we shared donuts in our background, Ray.
What a synchronicity there! And I ate donuts when I was in college.
That's very cool.
Vivek, as Ray, I want to congratulate you on this new beginning for you. It's an exciting new thing, and it's a wonderful experience to be able to go back with guys that I got started with, a year and a half ago in this platform. Folks who use a platform know its value. Folks who are not using it yet, it's the most exciting thing that I have ever seen in my 40+ years of business, because you can get creative with it and do a lot of very interesting things. And it really helps to market yourself and market your brand, whatever that might be. And it has definitely, and I'm sure the panel will all agree, it has created a level playing field for all small businesses. And that's a great place to be. So thank you, Vivek.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Ray, and thank you, Scott. I think it's time for bye-byes for this time, and all I'm going to say is integrate, simplify life. Thank you.